I'm sure you have sat through a presentation which has left a lasting impression on you. I'm also sure that you've sat through one which put you to sleep. Besides the way the PPT is created and how attractive it looks, the way the presenter addresses you and the way he or she interacts with the audience determines how good a presentation is. In this module, we'll learn how to create attractive presentations and how to engage the audience by following certain do's and don'ts. We'll also learn about the art of handling questions while making presentations. We are sure your presentations after this module will remain with your audiences for a long time for all the right reasons. Happy learning!
Design effective PowerPoint presentations. Make an effective presentation. Learn the do's and don'ts in presentation skills. Before creating a presentation, ask yourself the following questions. What? A rough flow of thoughts for the presentation, keeping the subject in mind, should be noted. With the subject and rough flow captured, we should get together the content as per the requirement. Who? We need to understand who our participants are. The participants could be clients, student groups, or colleagues. The ideal information to be captured would be age group, size, experience, and their knowledge on the subject. Note down the personal objectives for attending this training and then their receptivity to the subject. The opinion of your participants regarding the topic should also be considered. Why? Understand the outcome as required by the participants. Where? The perfect presentations are created by taking into account the size of the room, accessibility to electronic equipment, and other training material. When? It is good to prepare your presentation based on the day of the week and the time of the day. For example, a weekend will attract a bigger audience, and so we can plan more activities since it will guarantee maximum participation as compared to weekdays. Half an hour before lunch could result in the audience being lethargic and restless. The time just after lunch could result in sleepy and a non-participative audience. Make do with a minimum number of slides. The larger the number of slides, the more complex it gets, and the attention of the participants is lost. Keep the number of slides to the minimum. Use a single word or sentence and then elaborate as you present. Look at the example to understand better. Adding too many images will cause confusion as well as distraction. The presenter and the audience may lose their flow of thoughts. Cover a single subtopic in a slide. Do not overlap subtopics in the same slide. The images will give you a clear idea of the same. Include a frequently asked questions and thank you slide so that the audience is aware that it is the end of the session. They will also be ready to ask questions, and hence any kind of confusion is reduced. No one likes to strain their eyes while reading content in a presentation. The size and font type should be readable even from the end of the room when projected. Make sure that you use fonts that are common to all versions of Microsoft Office, Use italics and bold for emphasis. Typing in uppercase is considered as shouting in the internet language. Use of all uppercase in a sentence makes it look jumbled and difficult to read. Use templates matching the need of the topic or subject. There are many ready-to-use templates available online for medical, finance, sales, etc. Be careful to pick and choose based on the audience. Images speak louder than words while explaining complex scenarios. We should try and use images or flowcharts to simplify the subject. Do not use unnecessary sound and animation in between the presentation. These are a distraction and may lead to confusion in understanding the topic. Background should be simple. Avoid slides with dark text on dark background and light text on light background. The text and background colors should complement each other. Aids like charts, Excel sheets, illustrations, and diagrams are used to assist in creating effective presentations. Using available visual aids help explain complex details in a simpler way. Videos can be used for conveying the messages in motivational and inspiring topics and help break the monotony. Expressing thoughts with the help of these visual aids retain the attention of the audience. Preparing before the presentation. Make notes. Write down the flow of the presentation in the form of prompt cards. You can also make notes in a notebook that you will carry. Prepare frequently asked questions and their answers. Rehearse the presentation. This is the time for the dress rehearsal. Practice the presentation with the timing and the agenda. Record your presentation and gather feedback. Improve upon it if required. Every master practices his skill before the final performance. Gather all the material. Charge your laptop and set it up at the venue so that you can do a dry run. Check if the mic, speakers complement your laptop. Make sure that all material, stationery, and visual aids used for the presentation are easily accessible. Check markers and whiteboard or flip charts. Feedback. Make sure that the feedback forms or links are made available. Different methodologies can be followed based on the occasion. Presentations are made for varied reasons. Based on the motive, we have formal conference, knowledge transfer, team meeting, brainstorming, Let's know more about the formal conference right from the location to how you dress. Decide whether to use a podium or walk around. If it is a large audience and a big place, a microphone will be needed. Check the working of the microphone. Preferably, use a collar mic. Use a remote to navigate between slides. Make sure that you are formally dressed. Let's see how different a knowledge transfer methodology is from the others. This typically follows a classroom arrangement. The size of the audience is small and can be controlled. It involves a lecture where most of the communication is done by the presenter. Doubts are cleared, if any. Feedback is gathered. Semi-formal attire is required based on the audience you are going to address. A team meeting is limited to only the team members of a project. This is a less formal setup. It is usually conducted in a boardroom or any other private space. It is a presentation along with a discussion session. A microphone is usually not required since it involves a small group. You may use whiteboard or flip chart, markers, since the meeting will have an exchange of ideas. Since it is a less formal setup with a known audience, you can be dressed casually, depending on the company policy. Brainstorming is restricted to a close group. A brainstorming session involves a lot of discussions around the presentation. Be prepared for questions and disagreement to your ideas. The slides are minimal. Be prepared with your research notes on the subject. We need to have the whiteboard or flip chart markers ready so that the participants can express their views during the brainstorming sessions. Dress like you usually do, since this is going to make you use your creativity to the maximum. Before presenting, do arrive early at the venue so that you can have a dry run of the presentation. Use this time to thoroughly check all the electrical connections and go through the presentation and videos, if any, before the audience arrives. Be aware of your agenda for the day. Check the seating arrangement and other materials to be used in the presentation. Make sure that the seating is based on the methodology you have chosen. Prompt cards make sure that you stick to your agenda and do not forget any points. It acts like a guide and ensures that you do not miss out on any part of the presentation. Proofread your presentation and correct grammatical or spelling mistakes, if any. Make sure that there is a flow in the slides. All handouts should be printed, numbered, and kept in order based on the number of participants. During presentation, maintain time. Time is precious. Start and finish on time. Keep the presentation simple and explain the points via anecdotes. This helps the audience digest a heavy topic. Your body language speaks for you. Make sure you have the right posture. Use non-offensive gestures. Begin the session with a smile and dress suitably. Tell the audience when you will tackle questions. Confusion is prevented and you are mentally prepared. Maintain eye contact with the entire audience. Be conscious of your soft spot. While making a presentation, we tend to look in only one direction or only towards a few people. Make sure that you cover the whole room. If possible, use a little wit to reduce the tension or boredom in the room. Do not offend or target anyone. Use of humor depends on the kind of audience you are addressing. Make sure your tone of voice is friendly. The pace of voice is a significant factor in getting the point across. If you speak too fast, the audience will not be able to grasp the points you are trying to make. Too slow will put the audience to sleep. Speak loud enough to be audible to the audience. Start the session on an interactive note by asking questions relevant to the topic, sharing a story or discussing topics relevant to the subject. Don't read directly from the slides. The audience can do it themselves. They don't need a presenter for that. Don't use a lot of jargon. You will come across as someone who wants to show off. Not everyone may understand the complicated words you use. Keep it simple. Don't use too many short forms. The audience may not understand the short forms that you use and may be too shy to ask what it means. The presentation may go over their heads due to overuse of short forms. Don't have inappropriate pauses. It creates an impression that you are underprepared and don't know much on the topic. The audience may stop listening to you. Don't stand behind the podium or next to the projector throughout the presentation. It gets very monotonous when standing in one place. It is fine to move around and interact with the audience. Don't use very small fonts. The audience will not be able to read or comprehend what you have typed out, thereby leading to side talk and time being wasted. Don't apologize unnecessarily. This creates an image of you being underconfident and there will be a loss of credibility. Anticipating areas of possible questions. This helps you to be prepared and answer quickly. Say the questions out loud so that you are sure you have understood it. Answer to the point. Do not beat around the bush. Refer to your presentation if possible. Some answers may be in the presentation itself. Be friendly and keep your cool. Do not get provoked. In case you don't know the answer, say you will get back. You should try creating a presentation before moving to the next section. Have a look at the tips provided to help you create it. Let's summarize all that we have learned in this module. Always plan on who is the audience, what is the purpose of the presentation, the time frame, and the content that you have to share with them. Make an effective presentation, proofread, and make sure that the presentation is simple and clear. Make prompt cards for the presentation to help assist you throughout the presentation. Check all visual aids and its compatibility with the venue you will be at. Practice the entire presentation. A dry run of the presentation will help you get an idea of how much time the presentation will take, and you can make changes if required. Record the presentation if you want. You will then be able to observe your body language. While presenting, speak up clearly. Be yourself. Involve the audience and don't let your nerves take over. Know the subject and don't worry if you are unable to answer a few questions. Be aware of the tone, pace, and volume of your voice. Ask the audience if they are able to hear you clearly before proceeding. Check for understanding before proceeding.